Hi everyone, welcome to the VP Games Q&A session in accordance to the first anniversary of Ice in Hell's playthrough on Millennium War Aigis, hosted by Nutaku. I am Ice in Hell, and before we proceed, I would like to first say that English is not my first language, and it's not my mother tongue. So when I speak, and when you're viewing this video, you would probably encounter a lot of times where I stutter, make grammatical mistakes, as well as uh, issues like coughing and stuff like that going on. So I would like to apologize firsthand about all these problems, because it would take time for me to get used to speaking in English like this to everyone. Alright, now let's quickly kickstart with a bit of history about my playthrough on Nutaku. I started to play on Nutaku server on 2nd April 2015 and hasn't been off since. Apart from the occasional timeouts, usually I've been playing throughout the game all the time, and you can see that apart from Belinda, I've kind of like kept every event units so far. And also there won't be Aigis here because I kind of like missed out the unit when they swapped the trading post, since I don't have enough demon crystal back then. So this account has pretty much all the free units except Aigis and Belinda at this stage, which I will showcase later and also talk about my decision making and what's going to happen for the next 3 months on this account, and what sort of events we are talking about if I have the time. So let's go to the Q&A session. There are quite a number of questions being posed here, and for time's sake I have to like compress them and summarize into I think 6 or 7 main questions, which I will answer right now. So if you get to hear your questions or questions that use similar wording, then you will probably expect that's the answer that I'm gonna give to you. Otherwise, if your question is not here, most likely it's because it's of close resemblance with the questions others have asked, so I kind of merge them together, or it's questions that are not appropriate to be answered. So without further ado, let's quickly start this up and running. The first question is, do I use automation tools when I play Aigis? I'm not entirely sure what automation tool means here, but if it's about tools that I use to enhance gameplay, then no, I don't typically use any enhancing tools when I play the game. The way I play the game is just as similar as what a normal person would play the game, I suppose. If you are talking about streaming tools, then I typically only use 2 tools. One is Open Broadcaster software to record the runs, and once that is done, I convert them to a format, MP4 usually, that YouTube likes, with all the aspect ratio setting and whatnot, with Format Factory. That's another freeware. Both of the softwares are free anyway, so what I'm trying to say here is it's easy to use, easy to apply, and if you are interested in starting your own streaming, you can look into these 2 softwares, and they can help you out a lot in terms of getting basic stream channels up and running. So the next question, do I play the game for strategy or do I play the game for the scenes? To be perfectly honest here, even if Aegis is not a hentai game, I would probably still play it. The reason why is it bears a close resemblance with another tower defense games that I've played a lot. Pretty sure a lot of you would have known Plant vs Zombies. So I used to play that game a lot, and when I kind of got bored with Plant vs Zombies, somebody introduced me to Aegis, and I kind of got hooked up and instantly because of the close resemblance of some of the game mechanics, and the idea of training units kind of like opened up new experience for me. So now it's like having a unit is not just uh, the end of the road, but you have to train them, you have to pull them up, give them passives and things like that, so that they can get stronger and be more useful. So I like that idea. Moving to the next question, what is my dream team, or what are the units that I use or I consider as a dream team unit? This is a very hard to answer type of question because there is a lot of perspective involved. At a very biased approach, I would say having a full black team is always a great thing for a player, especially if you're talking about dream team, right? But at a realistic level, I would say that from free player perspective, whatever blacks you can get or whatever good platinums you can get is going to be in your dream team anyway. And besides, I don't really experience all the units so far, so I can't really say that I have adequate knowledge and experience with each units in the game that I can kind of like make a proper evaluation of a dream team. And I'm pretty sure that I don't really agree with a lot of the rankings out there either. Not sure if these people who put up their ranking list, either they are fully aware of the unit's potential or their ranking perspective is different. But as far as I know so far, I've seen through like I think four rankings, two from the English servers and two from the Japanese servers, and there are certain rankings that I can agree on, but not every one of them is agreeable. In fact, I felt that their accuracy isn't up to more than 50% for all of them. But that's another story. So, for my opinion on the dream team, if I really have to pick a unit in, it's going to be Aisha, obviously. Like this unit does so much for being a rearguard strategist, which I'll talk about later because there's a question asked as well. But looking at other units, for example, buff units can be considered as good dream team units. I kind of understand why people think that buff units are bad, because what they usually provide is just buffs and not necessarily doing a lot. So by phrasing this down a little bit, I would say that buff units who also provide good stats and good combating mechanics are great units to have. Example like this would be again Aisha, who gives you HP buffs as well as very good damage overall. Speaker can be considered as a good buff unit, as well because of the archer's buff and the overall archer's buff, and her damage herself is pretty impressive in the archer's department too. Then other units where, for example, I could not remember what's she called, but the Black Shaman. She's actually I would call it a hidden OP unit. I don't know why the English community rank her at a very low state, because putting the buffs aside, which is one very big plus for her, the ability to be able to toggle healing and attack continuously without having to frequently check on timers is something I appreciate as a unit that does the hybrid duties. So it's more about how you use the unit, I guess. Like if you really don't know how to use the unit, then you probably think she's bad. But as far as I'm concerned, players that use, like, I do know of a certain guy who up to today has all the black units and have already played through all the black units, and he kind of like ranked the Black Shaman as one of the top 5 in his composition. The other blacks that I would consider that are really good is Iris, obviously, for the healing. And if you don't have Iris, especially in Nutaku, substitute would be Saria. Hopefully they don't nerf that lady, or like block her from coming to the game, because Saria is pretty good after the series of buffs to her. Most recently, the skill awakening buff on her really spikes her potential. Um, Rion is another very good unit, being a melee range unit, but deals enough physical DPS that is almost as good as Nanali overall. Most importantly, because she is a melee range, so with the recent trend of the developers starting to nerf range slots, having a melee range unit can solve the issue. More so when Rion can also dish out pretty handsome physical damage per second, physical DPS. There are other interesting units, like at this point I would say Cornelia is actually in a very good spot. Cornelia as a Dark Knight previously is not in I wouldn't say she's that good, but her skill awakening really put her in a very good position. It's very hard to explain in words, but if you actually played Cornelia before, you would know why there's a big difference between pre-skill awakening and post-skill awakening Cornelia. It's very hard to describe. If there is chances where you get to watch video guides out there, try and look for those with Cornelia, and you can see why she's in a very good spot right now. So most of the units that I've talked about are mostly tankers and units that gets multiplier and precisely buff units. There are other hidden OP units like Matsuri as well. Not sure why she's also not being looked up by the English community. I kind of felt that these units, although they don't seem to do much on the map, actually contributed to a lot because of the sheer buffs they provide to everyone else. So you kind of like to want to strike a balance if you are merging a dream team, where you have really good stat units and some buff units to augment them further to compensate for the buff units' weakness, right? And not to say that these buff units are weak, but in essence some of the buff units actually can do pretty decent. Like, what would you expect from a buff unit is not a black units, like having black unit stats and or whatsoever, because if that's going to happen, you're just going to get another Aisha version 2 or version 3 coming in. But you want to have like buff units to be able to do something beyond a little bit more than what a platinum can do, but a little bit less than what a black OP stat black can do, right? So it's about striking a balance, and I think that the buff units are pretty good right now in Aigis. So ultimately at one point you will have to start to learn to use all these units because of all the nerfs coming in from the developers to kind of balance out some of these very OP stat blacks. So that's a very important thing to look at. So I kind of like already explained what a dream team would like and gave out a couple of examples of like what I would consider. Obviously there are other black and platinum units I would include in. Like if you want a pure tank, you would put Gilius in. If you want a range of tank, you would put Dana in. Or if you really want someone that is good on wave clear but also provide decent hybrid defenses, you would use Grace. So it really came down to a situation where it's very situational, and each black has their own use, and there's no definitive stance on what is a dream team that can like sort of like pounce through all the map with one setup. But usually you will find a healer, you'll find a tank, you'll find a couple of archer or range DPS, one mage or two, and then the other units are mostly for supplementary purposes. For example, the strategies, the advanced and rear guards, or advanced and rear guards and other like single blockers who also provide good ranged attack, things like that. So I hope that kind of gave you guys a picture of what a dream team would be like. Don't get tunneled into an idea that a dream team has to be like A B C D E F G, right? They can swap places. Some niche units can actually be a really good unit at their specialization, right? So hopefully that covers that question, and it probably would have also covered the question about rankings. So I kind of like hope that players would stop asking me about rankings. I looked at some of the rankings that was posted by these players, and I was like, okay, I can agree with this on this spot, but I cannot agree with another unit above a tier above this unit, for example. What I'm trying to say here is it gets really biased because of different perspective, and I just don't want to get into a situation where my biasness imposed influence on you guys. It's better that you judge on your own which unit is good and which unit is not so good. Besides, playstyle wise, some people would like to play with a lot of buff units. Some people would just like to storm through maps with like flat stats, and there are different playstyles involved, so it's really hard to justify unit rankings. Now moving forward to the next question, so is Aisha really that strong? I don't see her as very OP since her damage is pretty mediocre, but everybody seems to be praising this unit. Can you explain why Aisha is so good, and if spending crystals for her is necessary? Alright, okay, for this question, here's the issue with Aisha. Aisha is not a boss hunter. Why Aisha is so OP does not rely on her boss hitting capabilities. What makes Aisha so good is her ability to fill in multiple roles, do well on these roles, and still retain her uniqueness as a rearguard strategist. So as we have already known, like rearguard strategies gives like skill cooldown reduction. So the second time you use a skill on a unit, that cooldown timers get reduced when she is deployed. We also know that rearguard strategies generally have low costs. Also that rearguard strategies attack twice. They throw like they attack, like the animation goes twice. So if you try to understand what I'm trying to say here, it's like archers fires 1 arrows and vampire hunters fires 3 bolts. So rearguard strategies sort of threw out 2 kunais. So that means the weaponry, the damage, the attack stat that Aisha has, or any rearguard strategist has to be multiplied by 2 because of that 2 attacks, right? Now we look at Aisha, and she can do very well as a low-cost rearguard strategist with all these stat given to her. If you compare her cost to the units who are close or run similar cost to Aisha, as well as the basic range that Aisha has, 210, you would have noticed that Aisha goes toe-to-toe with most of the platinum vampire hunters. Obviously her damage DPS cannot like outplay some of the platinum vampires as well as Snow, but for a rearguard strategist, having able to dish DPS equivalent to a platinum vampire hunter kind of like remove your need to deploy a vampire hunter in the first place. And this is pretty huge because this means that you save a slot for better units to use, or you inherently get to use a unit that provide extra buffs apart from what a vampire hunter can do. So having Aisha in sort of solves issues with close range burst. like unless you are looking for extreme burst, then obviously Aisha can't give you that. But if you are planning to use Aisha like a common vampire hunter without using using their skills, then Aisha can fulfill that role pretty well and still provide you the cooldown reduction a rearguard strategies provides. Moreover, Aisha's biggest strength, I would rank Aisha's biggest strengths are on two parts, right? The first part is her post-skill awakening, the skill, like her skill awakening augmented skill, right? Which means you're talking about level 5 Aisha skill and underwent skill awakening. So that means you get Aisha to full growth, right? So at full growth, Aisha's skill does triple damage, okay? Triple damage, plus it deals a damage in a radius that is so big it almost covers the entire map if you place her at the center of the map. 630 range, like that's a triple range buff for skill awakening, which makes her so deadly because her attack animation when she's on skill activation is a bit like summoners. If you have used summoners before, what summoners do is using them as a focal point, they deal damage, area damage around the range that is covered, and these are true damage, right? So Aisha is a bit different in the sense that her damage isn't true damage as far as I'm concerned. I might be mistaken about that, but if I recall correctly, her skill damage is not true damage, but she consecutively damage 5 units regardless of their positioning, so long they are within the radius. So that is where the similarity lies between Aisha and what summoners can do, except summoners can obviously do better when they are on skill activation, since they deal damage to all enemies within radius. But Aisha has a far superior range, deals adequate damage, although it's only 5 enemies. The damage is usually enough if you're talking about clearing rushes or clearing trash mobs. Her damage is usually enough to one-shot or two-shot these monsters because of the triple damage multiplier. And it does a damage, and Aisha doesn't suffer weaknesses of summoners where they cannot deal damage when their skill is not activated. So now we're talking about a rearguard strategies that can do damage like a vampire hunter when not having her skill activated, that can deal damage like a summoner when her skill is activated, and more so when she gives 14% HP buff. 14% HP buff to all units on the field. Now, this means that Aisha, being a rearguard strategist who's supposed to give buffs, literally provided 300 to 400 HP depending on what tanks you are deployed on the field. If you are talking about 200 HP, 2000 HP units, then these units get like 200 HP, and that's not stacked on top of Prince buff. That means Prince buffs, sorry, not Prince buff, any HP buff. So any sort of HP stat buff that contributed to the stacking will also apply on Aisha's 14%, right? So it's like on top bonus, and that means for any conventional tanks like heavy infantries or hybrid mage tanks, these units can easily exceed like 3 to 400 HP incremental bonus with only having Aisha in the team. So that is a big buff. Like you literally provided a lot of survivability to your whole map because your melees just got like extra tankier, a lot extra tankier. And if you measure all of this, like summoners, vampire hunters, rear guards, and all these extra buffs that you provide, that she can provide to the whole team, that makes her a monster, because eventually what she did is she just buffed everyone up. So whatever good stat units that you already had on the field kind of like just got stronger. And if you are looking for survivability, then she obviously provides that as well with her good damage and the buffs, which is what makes her so good as a buff unit, right? So talking about buff damage, wave clear, AoE, skill reduction, you know, and all this stuff going on. These are the strengths that make her so good. It's not about her boss killing capabilities. There are many other units that are catered for that purposes, but for Aisha, she's supposed to just be a buff unit that provides skill cooldown reduction, yet she's doing a lot more than that and covers so much more roles in the team. That is what makes her so valuable as a black unit. And moreover, that she did this like other roles exceptionally well. It's not like you get gold tier damage, silver tier buffs, or platinum tier cost. It's literally a platinum and black tier performance across the board. So I hope that kind of like solved the doubts regarding revolving around Aisha and why she's generally regarded as the strongest unit. And instead of hopping on the bandwagon, I hope that you understand like why is this unit so good, instead of just blindly following everyone's hype train, right? So you have to understand that she has her strengths, and obviously she needs to have some weaknesses, and obviously boss killing is not her trait, but in terms of everything else, she kind of like did the job well. So let's move on to the next question. What are my thoughts on Loli restrictions? Do you think it hurts the game more in the long run? Alright, to be fair and to be honest, I don't really care about the Loli restrictions. Like, in fact, playing on the Nutaku server kind of gave me a bit of a fresh challenge because of the Loli restrictions. I frequently use a lot of Misha and Nenya in my DMM accounts, so not being able to access these units means that I have to resort to other options. For example, I don't enforce a clone policy on DMM, but on Nutaku that has to happen because you can't find a second better witch until very late stages of the game to replace Nenya. So I kind of have to train two low-cost witch in Kellio. And obviously with carry, it sort of relieved the issue with Valkyrie's shortage as well. But if you don't have carry, then most likely you have to train a second Valkyrie, a second silver Valkyrie, a second Elaine, for example. Since all their third options are not going to be available until very late of the game. And there are also very strong blacks and platinum units that are Loli characters who's not being released, and this can affect your gameplay a bit. For example, the revocation of the platinum farm angel. Not being able to run this event means that you kind of have to force yourself to fit rainbows on Sophie if you are maining this black angel, and that's a lot of extra incurring costs because rainbows themselves are not really that easy to get. And Sophie kind of like run through 10 skill levels, so you have to level 10, like at the best scenario you have to fit like 9, is it 9? I think it's 9 rainbows to get her to level 10. That's a lot of rainbows, and you have to also take into account failures. So it's comparatively, if you have access to the farm angel event where you can just farm for this, like how Azami is being farmed to fit Saki, the same can be done to Sophie, but because of the revocation of the event, this is not going to happen. So that these are issues that kind of like accumulate across with the revocation of Loli characters. Will it hurt the game? If you have to use certain units, then yes, it will hurt players who are very strongly reliant on these units. But if you are not a player, but usually that would happen if you are a player that migrated or migrate from DMM. If you are a new player that starts fresh on Nutaku, you won't be experiencing this problem because you won't know how strong these units are in the first place, and you would eventually adapt yourself to the server's design, right? So hurting the game in the long run will only happen if player starts to quit after knowing these units' strengths and differences. But it also shows the inability of these players to adapt to different situations. That's why they push the blame on Loli characters being nerfed here. For me, ultimately, how you play the game decides how good a player you are. If there is no certain units, then it would be a great achievement if you can use other units to replace them. Don't you think so? So, I don't think the game is going to go downhill because of the Loli restrictions. If any, it's going to hurt the pockets of DMM developers since they can't really stem as summon units. From a player's perspective, it doesn't really affect me too much. Now, moving on to the next question. How many blacks have I gotten so far, both in DMM and Nutaku? Alright, to answer this question, I think I might as well just go ahead and showcase what units this account currently owns, right? These are mostly spirits. If you want to take a look, these are mostly spirits that I kind of like kept in store for awakening. They will be gradually used up ultimately, but right now, to save spaces, I kind of like just leave them here. So let's have a look at the units list, right? I'll just change this to rarity to allow easy viewing. Alright, so as you can see, this is a pretty standard frugal plan free player account. What do I mean by frugal plan? That means if you follow my free player guide, this is a plan B kind of approach, where you have you don't really spend crystals on summons while preparing for events and stuff. But I'll talk about how to improvise this issue later. So Liana is a first pick unit. She's not from any of my summon attempts. In fact, if I recall correctly, I only made 6 summons on this account for the past whole year. So Liana is a first pick. She's not really counted as a summons process because I would have just rerolled the account if I didn't get her in the first place. Karma and Anya are mostly event units. These are pretty strong blacks as the game progresses. Saki is kind of like a hobby project. I don't plan to use her actually, but since Azami's event was up and running the other day, and I was left with like 5 or 6 copies of Azami because of the multiple attempts in trying to 3-star the maps for the stream video. I kind of like left with no option but to feed them to Saki because it's kind of a waste to feed them to Azami, knowing her potential is not so great, but Saki definitely has some uses in the long run. So this is kind of like a hobby project, and I kind of stopped developing her anymore. Unless I have more black spirits available and more tin cans to spend, then maybe she will get some training, but otherwise that's not gonna happen. For the platinum units, there are 19 of them. At this point of the game, this stage of the game, these are all free units and event units focused. As far as I'm concerned, there is 0 summon platinum units here, except for Bashira, who's previously a premium summon and became a tutorial unit afterwards. Now, my Bashira is -1 cost and +1 skill. That's kind of showcase that I did get a Bashira from Summons, which contributed to her skill upgrade and cost reduction. So this is the only platinum unit I get out of the 6 summons. The other remaining summons are all gold and silver. I get let me see. I get a Bernice, I get a Themis, and I get a Conrad for the remaining 3, and the other leftover 2 premium summons are silvers. One of them being Dorka, as far as I remember, and the other one is Alissa, if I'm not mistaken, which I already used as a fodder. So Julian is obtained from SP Summon, this extra piece of, like, I get 2 Julian copies, one from the Gold Rush and another one from the Dragon Princess completion reward. The third Julian that I've gotten here is obtained from SP Summons. If you have the chances, if you have the chance, you can try out SP Summons. They tend to drop silver and gold tier more frequently than you would have expected. So these are very good sources for awakening fodders, the SP Summons. Now that's about it, right, for the black units that I have on Nutaku. And on DMM, because I run 2 accounts, it's really hard to quantify them. Also, I kind of like have access to a couple of my friends' accounts who have already quit the game. I don't play these accounts anymore, but in the case when I feel like I want to test out certain units, I would actually log into these accounts and try them out. So, but strictly about my accounts, I kind of only gotten like 3 blacks throughout the 1.5 years time of my game time. Like I got Matsuri as a summons black. Nanali is a first pick in one of the accounts, so I would not count her as a black unit that I've gotten from summons. So out of the 3, Matsuri, Rion, and Amanda are the 3 summons black that I've obtained so far in the game, and these spread across 2 different accounts. So not even an extra account actually has more than 2 premium summon blacks, right? Actually, one of them has 3, but the other one has only 1. So this kind of like show the example of how low or how bad depending purely on summoning units if you are looking for good units or trying to spot a good unit. Because if you are really lucky, then yes, this is going to be a really good investment. But if you kind of have like shit luck like me, like really bad luck like me, then this is equivalent to digging your own grave, I would say, because you would have spent the crystals elsewhere to improve your current team setup or to get better event units, whereby most of the collection events are usually very good to use. So it's like where would you want to put your investment? Which is why I don't agree with using Plan A on Nutaku, or rather the summon spree spending plan, where you kind of like just went through the entire story mission, hoard all the crystals, and then you start to do a summon spree. I don't really agree with that. My approach would be getting all the crystals, store them up, always maintain a 50 to 60 crystal baseline for any sort of events any sort of collection event popping up, or if there's a really good farm event unit, then you want to consider spending crystals. Also, Gold Rush can cost crystals as well, especially if the map you're trying to score gives like really good rewards, such as time crystal, Spirit of Time, or Spirit of Blessing. I think it's called Spirit of Blessing, where you gain like enough experience through level 1 to max a character from level 1 to level 99 with extra experience in the tank. So you kind of like want to keep crystals. I wouldn't say this is hoarding, but I can actually use this right now for summons, since this is more than enough. But you will only want to do the summoning part of things once you have like more than enough extras, and not go into a summoning spree head on. That is my personal opinion on how this game should be played, especially in an environment like Nutaku, where sacred crystals are pretty rare due to all the breaks and whatnot. So ultimately, it's really a decision. If you are here for the scenes and whatsoever, and you have the cash to back up your bad luck, then go ahead. But if you are going to play purely free like me, then I would still suggest to go with the frugal plan, because it's like once you pass through the stage where you already have a good team set up, and you kind of are in a position to clear most of the maps easily. That's the time when you can start thinking about spending the crystals on summons without too much of an issue. So it's more or a hard work first, enjoy life later plan, compared to throwing everything for a gamble and suffer or enjoy life later plan. So the last question, I think we're running quite long right now. Until now, so let's just quickly go to the last question here. Actually, there's still two more questions, sorry. So let's talk about the second last question. I've noticed that your free player guides needs updates. Do you plan to improvise the guide to accommodate for desert map expansions and the newly introduced Awakening? Now, the free player guide, to be very honest, is a bit outdated at this stage of the game, mostly because of the reasons it's exactly like what you have asked. The desert map would change the landscape of the event completely, because now with the introduction of desert maps with better experience foders like this guy, I keep forgetting his name, but what the bottom line is, Immortal Beast is no longer an efficient map to farm foders, due to the fact that it's hard to farm, because you have to 3-star to get to use commission sortie and stuff like that. It's not easy for a new player, and the fact that castle retake can be cleared easily if you know the tips and tricks behind it. So why would you want to clear castle retake as soon as possible now? Because by clearing castle retake, you remove the last obstacle for you to unlock all these desert maps. So the idea now is, instead of going to 3-star every map towards Immortal Beast, what you want to do is you try to clear as many maps as possible. It doesn't have to be a 3-star. You just want to quickly clear off this hurdle, this castle retake hurdle, then go into the maps, into the desert maps, and try to hit Fiery Oasis for if you are very underleveled, because Fiery Oasis kinds of like unlock real good experience for this at this stage. So this unit is essentially like it gives experience, the same experience as you would to a unit that is of the same class and is bronze tier. So obviously the same tier, like he doesn't benefit any soldier experience, he doesn't give any extra soldier experience due to that regard, but he can be used as like a wild card for all the other classes that are not soldiers for the extra experience bonus. Ideally you want to get to base scramble 2, which provides the one like these are the best for the combinations you can get. But if you cannot get to here, you want to go through Fiery Oasis as your staple for the farms, even if you manage to clear these 2 maps, because despite the level, these maps provide more bronze units compared to the other two maps. Of course, I'm not quite sure what are the drop rates of the bronze and how many of the copies are, but ideally you want to get to Fiery Oasis as when you're underleveled. Stick here, try to 3-star this map, stick here, farm your levels up and your units up, then clear Base Scramble 2. Immortal Beast kind of became a map that is good for the crystal rewards as well as a money map, although people would generally farm Pastoral Gate if they are looking to generate money with the Awakened gold generation units like Betty and Lila. So basically that covers the free player guide. Obviously I have to talk about the summons as well at this stage of the game. If you have like more than enough crystals, even if you're running on a frugal plan, you can consider spending the crystals so long you keep a baseline, enough crystals as a baseline for 2 events in advance as preferred. Usually you want to store 50 to 60 crystals for a potential collection event, then an extra 20 for a potential 15 to 20 for a potential drop rate event, especially with Awakening Gems and daily mission drop rates, right? So moving towards the last question, this is a question that Nutaku players probably won't get, but if you have played through in DMM, there is a recent patch that introduced a new stem card. So right now our stem card kind of only hit the legend stem card, so if you spend like enough crystals, you get to the point where the stem card rewards gets better and better and better, but ultimately it's still rewarding like things like probably a bit more crystal refunds, better rarity spirits, and better experience fodders and things like that. So with the newly introduced Legend Plus card, it comes with a new ticket. If I'm not mistaken, for you to achieve this stem card, you need to spend either 150 sacred crystals for a month, or 250 crystals for a month. Where the 250 crystals differ in a sense that you get the 5000 experience base black tin can and numerous other stuffs as well. So, but the concern right now is about the ticket, because the unit ticket that you get for spending 150 or to 250 crystals for that month guarantees a platinum unit the moment you use the ticket, or rather the moment you take it out. So what happens is the ticket will be awarded here, like in the gift box. The moment you click it, it's equivalent to pressing this button, this summons button. It guarantees platinum, but you can also get black units. So it's sort of like a ticket that allows you to get like platinum and higher tier units, right? But the problem with the ticket is there is no spotlight buff involved. So every unit you can get would be premium summon units that are of equal status, something like this, right? So everyone here is of equal chance, pending introduction of the rates, which until now I'm not sure what is the rate of the tickets. We tried to do a list of we tried to do our own survey the other day, and apparently the black rate is pretty decent. It looks like more than 3%, but we are not entirely sure if it's 3%. If it's the way we poll the results, it seems like it falls around the 15% mark. So that's pretty decent for a ticket. But from a free player perspective, it's a bit. I'm a kind of bit indifferent to this because of how you get crystals overall, right? More so when you're playing in, if this comes to a Nutaku server, on how you manage these crystals. Now, as you have already known, right, crystals comes in for a free player, either from stem cards where you get 5 crystals per month. That's fixed. And most of your other crystals come from events, right? Event maps and story missions. These are all one-time crystal rewards. Same goes for events and dailies. So once you've already accumulated all these crystals, your monthly crystal income sort of stalled a bit, because then it really, your primary source would definitely be only from event crystals, and if there is a revival, you would get a one-time bonus from revival events as well. So even on a DMM situation, like on DMM servers, of course there is a new avenue where there is a new mission tier here. It's called bonding missions, where any awakened units that have their bonding missions available, you can do those missions. It costs 2 stamina per run. You are given a fixated unit, so it's a bit like the what is it? It's a bit like the drill, I suppose. Oh no, it's not a bit like drill. If you remember, okay, it's a bit like the urgent mission drills. So you kind of have a fixated, or is it? I couldn't remember. But anyway, what happens is you kind of have a fixed setup. You're given the only units you can change is the bonding unit. That growth can change, and the prince himself. So only 2 units are within your control. The other units are preset for you, and by clearing those maps, those missions, you get 3 sacred crystals per completion. They work a bit like the special like character quests if you've played Company Girls. So that's another source of crystals in DMM. But overall, what I'm trying to say here is getting 150 crystals just to use them in a month is a huge task for a free player, because generally you get 25 to 30 crystals if there's no revivals going on. On that server per month, and if you double that value, you're looking at 60 to 80 crystals per 2 months. And with the frequency of collection events on DMM right now, which typically occurs every 2 to 2.5 months, you would have to substitute like 40 crystals depending on your level and your ability to farm, and of course your luck as well. So by substituting that, you're looking to spend like 35 to 50 crystals every 2 months, and you only get like 80 crystals per 2 months, right? So that gives you a net gain of like 25 to 30 crystals per 2 months, and you have to store up to 150 crystals before you use them. So at this juncture, you're talking about a possible 8 months period if there is no revival and there's no extra crystal sources. You're talking about 8 to 10 months of stocking period just to get the platinum ticket if you're a free player. And to me, that's a bit too much. Like my take would be this, right? If there is good spotlight units that you kind of want to aim for, then you probably don't want to stock that much, because ultimately you will still might end into a situation where you stock up for 10 months per se, and you spend 150 crystals, you get the legendary ticket, you open it, and it turned out to be a platinum unit. So that's kind of like, it's a long-term investment that doesn't necessarily guarantee a very good return. You might as well just spend the crystals over time whenever you had a chance to upgrade the stem cards for every collection event, try it out the units. Chances are, if you're really bad in luck, then you might not get any reward at all, but it's still kind of like, it's more like a bet anyway for the tickets and the summons. I just feel like what is the point of storing it that long if there are good spotlight units coming out, right? But of course, if you are a hoarder, like you don't really have any interest in spending like in spending from time to time, then you can hoard the crystals to 150 and then you spend it for the tickets. So from my perspective, I probably will do it on both ways. I would spend accordingly on one account, and I will try to store 150 crystals and spend one shot on the other account, and from there I can kind of evaluate what are the rates, and if it's worthwhile for a free player to like stock that much. But as far from from sentiments that I've asked around people who's around my community, and they are free players, they generally don't look forward to storing that much of a crystals. It's also because of personal preference, obviously, but it's probably just not that good of an idea to go for the stamp card as a free player. So I guess that's about it. That covers all of the questions. I kind of like compressed them together, so you would get to know a bit of here and there. Hopefully that answered all your questions. And then to sort of like close this, I would like to first thank everyone who's been supporting me over the past year through my YouTube channel and blog. Your support is greatly appreciated. Like, I wouldn't have continued this if there is no encouragement. Like, you guys have been really putting me up through. I have my ups and downs when running all these content, and without your support it's not gonna last this long, and I hope for more of your support in the future, and thank you very much. Also, would like to also take this opportunity to thank a few players. I would like to thank a Japanese player. His name is written in non-Roman characters. Unfortunately, I cannot pronounce that. I'm not sure if it's a Mandarin name or if it's a Japanese name, but this guy has been great to work with, and he's a free player as well, and we had our times together when he kind of like brought me up while I was still very new to the game. Also to thank some of the streamers out there who kind of like gave me feedback. These are mostly Nico streamers on what sort of approach I could take, although mostly they would just have like pointed me to Monmi's guide. And just gonna say here, Monmi is a really passionate player of this game. He's one of the streamers that I'm really look forward to, that I really look up to. And finally, I would like to thank Nutaku especially, since I never really asked them to support my channels and whatsoever, but they willingly provide this sort of support when they retweeted my event previews, they retweeted my blog posts, they featured my YouTube channels, and they followed me on Twitter and things like that. These are the tiny stuffs that really translates to big encouragement for me personally, and I really thank them for being so supportive to streamers overall, and hopefully that our partnership can last in the future. So really thank them for all the support given. And I guess that's about it for this video session. If this is running well, I would probably consider doing more video recording or more Q&As in the future, but that really depends on my work schedule as well as my time, because right now I'm kind of at a stage where I kind of don't really have a lot of time to focus on creating content. In fact, I had to like play some of the games during work, which is obviously not a good idea at all. But anyway, I'll look into the possibility of doing more recorded videos if this is going well for you guys out there. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.